Welcome to the final part of the initial installment of our next level leadership training course. Today we're going to talk about the failure of Aaron. Sometimes it helps to know what not to do as we attempt to learn what to do. And Aaron is a good example of failed leadership. You remember the story in Exodus chapter 32. Moses was actually in charge of the Israelites. This is during their wilderness wandering period. But Moses was called upon the mountain, Mount Sinai. And he was meeting with God. And Aaron was left in charge. Why would Aaron be left in charge? Well, first of all, he was the brother of Moses. Second of all, he was the first high priest. So he had a position of leadership and had demonstrated leadership skills in the past. I think it's significant that he's mentioned 406 times in the Bible. That's a lot of mentions. He was chosen by God. But he didn't implement very good leadership skills, very good leadership techniques while Moses was gone. We know from reading the end of the story that Moses is on Mount Sinai for 40 days. Aaron and the people didn't know how long Moses would be gone. From the context of the story, if you connect a few dots, we can deduce that about day 38 or 39 of Moses' absence, the people grow restless. And they approach Aaron and they begin to question Moses and they begin to question God. And I believe in verse 1 is where Aaron makes his first mistake. And he did not stand up for Moses. He demonstrated that he was a weak leader. He was spineless in this situation. And he was swayed by the foolish demands of the people. He demonstrates an absence of faith and does nothing to inspire a confidence in the people. He should have expressed confidence in God. He should have expressed confidence in Moses. And in his uncertainty, he turns to error. It seems as though he had no foundation, no principles that would guide his behavior, or at least he strayed from them if he did. His approach differs greatly from a man named Joseph, also or in the book of Genesis, actually, Genesis chapter 41, when Pharaoh has a dream, and Joseph is in prison and is known as an interpreter of dreams. They summon Joseph to the Pharaoh. Pharaoh tells him the dream, and Joseph interprets the dream. And Joseph says the dream is 7 fat calves. The 7 fat calves speak of 7 years of plenty. 7 emaciated calves speak of 7 years of famine. And the 7 emaciated cows eventually eat the 7 fat cows. And Joseph interprets the dream, says that it means that those years of famine are going to consume the years of plenty. But then Joseph, with great confidence, tells Pharaoh what he needs to do. And he never mentions his own name, but he might as well be writing out his resume. He says, here's what you need to do. You need to put someone in charge of those 7 years of plenty. Someone who will have the wisdom to put aside 1/5 of all the grain that's grown in the land of Egypt. And then when the 7 years of famine come, we'll be in a position to make a great profit and not only survive, but to thrive during those 7 years of famine. And he expresses that with such confidence that Pharaoh says, man, you're the guy to be in charge of that. Very different than the way Aaron handled this difficult situation when Moses was gone. Then the people tell Aaron, make us a god. And Aaron makes a mistake in trying to appease the people. Again, instead of expressing confidence in the God who had delivered them from the land of Egypt, who had brought them through the Red Sea, he makes the mistake of trying to appease the people. You know, it's like a football coach. Every 4th down situation, the fans want the coach to go for it on 4th down. And the coach almost invariably punts. And the people are disappointed. But the coach knows that if they don't make it, they give up advantageous field position to the other team. They're thinking long-term. They're making a good long-term decision. But the fans want to go for it. If you try to appease the people, you will make bad decisions. One football coach said, if you listen to the crowd, it won't be long before you're sitting with them. Bill Cosby said, I'm not sure what the key to success is, but I know the key to failure is to try to please everybody. Why can't the leader please everybody? Well, there's lots of reasons. First of all, there's lots of different opinions out there. And when you try to please everybody, the end result is you make nobody happy. I remember in the office a number of years ago, some of us drank regular coffee and some of us drank decaf. And Rhonda, in an attempt to please everybody, put the decaf and the regular together. Half decaf, half regular. Unfortunately, the result was nobody was happy. The decaf people don't want half regular, and the regular people don't want half decaf. So your efforts to please everybody will inevitably, invariably fail. Does the majority rule? Well, I guess in some societies and in some settings that's true, but when it comes to pleasing people, it can't be just about the majority. If I'm holding a little bunny and someone asks me if it's a boy or a girl bunny and I don't know the answer, it doesn't matter if we vote on it. The majority doesn't rule in that situation. So they wanted Aaron to make them a god, so Aaron collects their golden earrings and all their necklaces and their jewelry, and he makes the golden calf. He begins to make fear-based decisions. He falls into sin. He not only turns a blind eye, but he participates in the sin. He chooses the depths of idolatry. And it reminds me of some people that we know, and leaders as well, that have said, you know, I tried God, and it didn't work. Weak leadership. In verses 11 through 14, God tells Moses what's happening in the camp, that the people have turned to idolatry and turned to sin. And he threatens to blot the people out and to begin a new race of people through Moses. But Moses intercedes on behalf of the people. He says, if you blot them out, then you have to blot me out too. He says, other countries, other nations, other people will say that God's people couldn't get it done and your name will be tarnished. He intercedes on behalf of the people that have turned their back on God and turned their back on Him. And in that we see Moses contrasted with Aaron. Aaron was a weak leader. Moses was a strong leader. Moses was selfless. Aaron was selfish. Moses was confident. Aaron was insecure. Moses looked from a long-term perspective. Aaron saw things only in the short term. And this is very important. Moses made love-based decisions, and Aaron made fear-based decisions. Every fear-based decision will take you down the wrong road. Moses looks at the big picture. A good leader always thinks long-term. It's like the goose with the golden egg, that you're getting a golden egg once a day from the goose. And the temptation is to cut the goose open and get all the golden eggs. But that's short-term thinking. Long-term thinking thinks in terms of long-term investment. It's a little tougher sell, but long-term thinking is good. Our decisions and our behavior must fit into the missions and the mission and vision of our organization or our family. That's the grid upon which we make difficult decisions. Mission and vision is very important. It's what keeps you on the right track. It's what helps you think long term. It's what keeps you thinking big picture instead of reacting in a fear-based decision in the moment. A true leader is solution-minded. Aaron was problem-minded. A good leader sees opportunities where others see problems. I heard in a recent Sunday, somebody went to the nursery. There's 3 workers in there. 12 babies. I mean, we've got a problem. We've got young families that are having all kinds of babies, and the nursery is overwhelmed. But I don't see that as a problem. I see that as an opportunity. This is the kind of problems that we want. So it's not a problem. It's not a negative. It's an opportunity. It's a challenge to be overcome. A true leader sees opportunities where others sees problems. A true leader accepts responsibility. Aaron was quick to blame others. Problem-minded people make excuses. You know, there's always an excuse. I remember as a kid, a kid missing a fly ball on the baseball team. Oh, the sun was in my eyes. There's always an excuse. Problem-minded people blame others. There's the story of the college football coach who took over a new team, and the outgoing coach that had had a rough go of it said, hey, I left you 3 letters in the top drawer of the desk. At the end of the first 3 years, open one of those letters. The first year went by, the team had a tough go of it. The coach opened the first letter as he was about to head into his review from his superiors, and the letter from the previous coach said, blame me. Tell him I didn't leave you much to work with. So he went into his meeting and he said, yeah, I'm blaming the old coach. He didn't leave me much to work with. It's going to take me a while to turn this around. Year 2 goes by. Again, another difficult year. And he opens the second letter as he's heading into that same meeting. And it says, blame the boosters. Blame the recruiters. They didn't do enough to help you. So he goes in the meeting, blames the recruiters, blames the boosters that they didn't do enough they didn't give him enough to work with. Third year goes by, another tough year. He's heading into that annual review. He opens up the third letter and it says, prepare 3 letters. You see, weak leaders blame other people. Weak leaders, number 3, transfer responsibility. Well, I didn't know. No one told me. And finally, weak leaders minimize. They minimize fault and they minimize the damage. Aaron said to Moses, well, you know these people. You know what they're like. He's minimizing. Now picture yourself in Aaron's place. When is it best to draw the line in the sand? How do you know when to draw the line in the sand and say, I'll go this far to appease you and no further? And the answer is, in the areas where there can be no compromise. Now, how do we decide where there can be no compromise? I think it's expressed well by one of the sidekicks of Martin Luther King. He said, in essentials, unity. In non-essentials, liberty. In all things, charity. There's some things you can't compromise on. We can compromise on how we do things around here. There's certain doctrines that we will never compromise on. Jesus Christ is the Son of God. Jesus Christ was born of a virgin and suffered and died on a cross for your sins and for mine. There's no compromise as far as that goes. He's the only way to heaven. There's no compromise on that. In essentials, there must be unity. In non-essentials, there can be liberty. But in all things, there must be charity or love. Convictions must be undergirded with love or they become offensive and hurtful weapons. 2 great examples, homosexuality and abortion. If our convictions about those 2 controversial topics are not undergirded with love, then those convictions become offensive and hurtful weapons. If we start blowing up abortion clinics, then we're no better, no different than those that perform the abortions. Our convictions must be undergirded with love. Note the collateral damage that come as a result of Aaron's failure. It says, and the Lord plagued the people in verse 35 of chapter 32 in the book of Exodus. He plagued the people because they made the calf which Aaron had made. A good leader will not always be popular. And a good leader knows that he will not always be popular. The Bible says, in fact Jesus said this in Luke 6:26, woe unto you when all men speak well of you. That means you've been trying to appease all the people. Woe when all men speak well of you. You know, why is politics such a difficult game? Politics is difficult because you have to keep the majority happy. What's a majority? Majority is 51%. Well, think of this. If a pastor has 51% of the people, he's got a church split. So what drives our decision-making process? It has to be our core values and our vision and our mission. We need a healthy grid of values and guiding principles to base our behavior on. It's this foundation upon which we base our decisions when times get tough and you're not sure what to do. Aaron's failure can be summed up in this. He was lean and undisciplined spiritually and emotionally. He was more concerned about what the people thought about him than with the call upon his life to lead the people well. If your goal is to get people to like you, then you're a leader like Aaron. If your goal is to lead according to the plan of God with the long-term good of the people in mind, then you are a leader like Moses. If you want people to like you and you try to appease them, they will lose respect for you. And you cannot like somebody that you have no respect for. But if you earn their respect over time, most likely, they will like you too. You know, when I became a pastor, I made a decision that I was going to do this the way God had called me to do it. I refuse to fail doing this someone else's way. If I fail, I at least want to be able to look in the mirror knowing that I did what God called me to do. And I tried my best. I don't want to fail because I'm a weak leader. Aaron failed because he tried too hard to appease the people, instead of leading them according to the will and the plan of God that were found in the grid of his mission and vision and core values that were there to drive his life. Let's learn from the failure of Aaron. And let's be a good leader. God bless you.